Paul, welcome to Housing Technology. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. What have been the main challenges for Watford during COVID-19?
Yeah, we're a medium-sized housing association, and like many in the sector, it came on us very quickly. The main challenge has been really twofold. There's been one which is around how we've supported our customers and tenants, and there's been the other bit around how we and our staff continued to work effectively during this period. The tenant piece has been very challenging. We've had to keep a very close eye on how people are managing both economically and financially in this current situation, and also there's been a lot of focus on communication as well. We've been fortunate. We've managed to keep our call centre live throughout the period, which has been done through a variety of means, including deploying soft phones to all of our call centre staff. But also, we were very fortunate in that we had a really big push over the last year to 18 months on our digital tenancy platform as well, which meant that tenants could also provide quite a high level of self-service and manage a lot digitally, which previously wouldn't have been as possible. And then similarly, on the staff side, we've had a real focus on remote working capabilities, both in terms of kit, bandwidth, and ways of working as well. And I think we've been fortunate that we took a lot of, I suppose, the difficult medicine over the last 2 years in terms of preparation, kind of probably under the guise of new ways of working, then maybe a pandemic, but actually it left us in good stead to respond to this.
So given the sort of new ways of working, what types of applications and software have you adopted to get you through this?
Well, I think with many in the sector, video messaging has gone from a strange kind of very unfamiliar thing to now it's part of our daily kind of bread and butter. So we adopted both Zoom, and we also really pushed the Microsoft Teams platform as well. So there are many different products out there, but I think right across the sector we've seen video messaging has now become in many ways a kind of a staple for many people in terms of how we communicate. So there's been that whole bit. There's been a lot around collaborative workspaces now and how we've done that, and Teams is a great environment with the SharePoint to really support us working in different ways. It has involved live training as during the pandemic as well, to really not just, one of my mottos is you can't just put the icon on someone's desktop and say, there you go, you've got a new bit of kit. You've got to really train them on how to use it, how to make kind of best use of the technology and the platform as well, which has been part of our strategy as well. And similarly, we've been very focused in terms of our customers to when it has been maintaining our call center and also our tenancy platforms, is continually signposting them to these platforms as well, so they know what are the different ways to use it, because we have had periods where our office has been closed, where we haven't been able to cater for the drop-in customers. So it's about making sure they know other ways in which to stay in contact with us.
So has there been quite a big uptake of new ways of doing things, like things that you really didn't think would happen, and all of a sudden it's actually energized things?
I think it has, and I definitely focus on the preparation we did beforehand as well. So I think the timing was quite fortunate for us, but we did quite a bit of work in the year beforehand on BCP readiness. So we had a lot of things which were not in a good place, which we migrated. So we had both our BCP plans hosted in a OneDrive. We created an incident management WhatsApp group. We already had A and B team splits configuration set up and agreed in anticipation of a variety of events, not just pandemic. So I think there was a whole bit around, we really thought beforehand about if our office was closed, how could we operate effectively? And a lot of the things which had this pandemic happened 18 months ago, we'd have had real issues around things like physical tape backups at the office, which are still very common for organizations of our size. All of that we've knocked on the head, and we've moved to remote backups as well. So I think I cannot kind of stress how I think we were, we did a lot of groundwork without knowing what was around the corner. A lot of the BCP planning meant actually when things really got very difficult in March, and it suddenly went from, oh, this is a problem possibly around the corner to this is now a real issue. We were actually able to effectively move our whole office to remote working in 3 days. Which included the A/B splits. It included everyone having a device to work from home, and making sure that all of our field operatives, we were thinking about any technology needed to support them as well, and we moved our whole call center off, to remote working through soft phones, which I think all of these things we were able to do. But I think we obviously accelerated these things, and it does really show the power of, if there's a clear focus point, how quickly you can deploy things. So it did make us move quicker on some things than we anticipated, but it showed that we can actually operate a real hybrid model, which I'm sure is going to have a long-lasting legacy on us going forward.
Were you taken aback to a certain extent with the way in which you adopted things so quickly?
I think I've given our IT team and a number of areas, some real recognition and praise, because when we were talking about office closing, for example, I'm going to probably listed 10 things that I would have thought would have been very difficult to migrate into a remote working environment. When you think of invoices, you think of payments, you think of post, you think of kit refreshes, hardware replacements, all these bits. And I think we've gone back to we've been really impressed as an organization how actually we could almost entirely close the office with virtually no one needing to go in apart from very, very occasional contact points, which was what was required at the time. But actually the impact it had on the service we could provide and on business continuity was very limited. So it was a great wake-up call for us. And I think it's actually really filtered through our whole staff base now, in that a lot of people still want to come in and work in a collaborative environment. But I think a lot of people are saying, actually, it's about when I need to come in and coming in for the right reasons, as opposed to the model before, which was a lot of people saw the office as a 5 days a week, kind of a activity. So I think people are now seeing the benefits of working from home. And that's why I say I think it's going to have a very long legacy on both how our existing employees view the office and for working from home, but also thinking about what this means for how we try to attract future employees as well, and what that offer looks like, which is definitely more of a hybrid model, given the uncertainty we could have for months to come.
It's funny, actually, one of the things that came out from our conference the other day was the word productivity and the way in which people were monitored and measured. Obviously, when you're working remotely, it's quite a different dynamic. How have you managed to adapt to a different way of monitoring how people gain productivity?
I mean, it is hard on, there is that school of thought of how do you, and it is, I think a bit of it's a bit old fashioned on me. If I can't see someone, I don't know they're working. We really want a culture which is based on outcomes-based management rather than hours at desk management. And I think many in the sector want to go in that direction. I think there is still challenges, and it's both from a how do you monitor people are operating effectively. There's the other bit which is as hard, which is how do you know that team members are engaged and in a good place as well. And I think there's been a lot of work on mental health and the impact that lockdown and isolation can have. So I completely agree with the technology side, which we do have tools, and we have used them to some degree, more to just to support managers, but not to use as a kind of an iron fist, because I don't think that's the right message for our staff. It's around people demonstrating that they are getting through their work. But we actually did a session, all of our managers did a session last week, which was very much based on more the how do you lead an organization through remote working, which I think is the important bit, which was all about us thinking about how is it different? How are you communicating? How are you inspiring? And how are you dealing with, there are going to be performance issues. How are you dealing with that remotely, which is, I think, a lot harder. It's difficult to read people when you're doing it remotely as opposed to face to face, and it's harder to have those difficult conversations. So we've done focus on both the productivity management, but also the checking in. And one of the good things we've done is we have delivered new bits of technology in quite a rapid time to support this. So it was quite early on in the lockdown, we updated our appraisal system, and we kept the formal one-to-one process, but we included a weekly check-in, which we had to build, and put into the appraisal system. So it created a new way that people could just do these 5-minute check-ins, log them with their staff member, because we felt that just keeping to this 6-month thing, there was too much risk that things would slip through the net in that period.
It's a really tricky one, because we've never been here before. I mean, obviously, we've all worked remotely, but when it's completely enforced on you, and it's where does one get the information to even begin to put together that plan? Can you just give us a bit of an overview of Watford Community Housing? What their sort of ethos is, size, etc.
Yeah, so we're one of we're a regional player. We've got 6,500 homes and other assets in the community. I've been at Watford Community Housing myself for 4 years, and I've moved into the deputy chief executive role. Our ethos is very much around community. That's something we've continued to focus on. We do have very strong engagement with our customer representation group, which is we have a gateway management team, which is effectively tenants who provide scrutiny and co-work with us on shaping the future of the organisation. So we are very much a community-driven organisation. But what we try and do is make sure we punch above our weight as well. And some of the areas in particular have been in development. We do a lot of work on joint ventures with our local councils, which I think we've done a lot of talking in the sector over the last few years about. They've been quite novel in what we've managed to achieve for our scale. And the other bit has been around technology as well. So we've done a lot around digital transformation. We've really tried to, I suppose, 4 years ago, it was my focus was let's get back into the pack. And now it's around how can we get a bit ahead of the pack as well. And that's been through partnering or building really strategic relationships with the likes of Orchard and actually co-developing with them, rather than just receiving patches and updates and kind of being a very traditional kind of buyer-supplier type relationship. So we are ambitious, and we're always trying to push the envelope and really focusing on growth at the moment.
How do you see the future of our sector?
Well, I think it's worth thinking about how are our customers going to see the future of the sector as well. So one area that is definitely getting more traction is we're going to become a more digital sector. And I think that's not just housing associations wanting it because it's more efficient, but we're actually seeing customers. We are getting more younger customers as well, particularly as shared ownership is moving well up the agenda in the sector. And we've seen that in recent government announcements as well. This is not just about, I think, an unfair picture that's been painted of our customers, which is, kind of quite a senior group who are very technology averse. Actually, if you show people that it's easy to do it, if you show it's accessible, there's no barriers there at all. And when you think that the vast majority of people, even going up to a very high age range, will be doing online banking, online shopping, groceries, etc. There's nothing special about housing, which means it's too complicated for the vast majority of transactions to do in the same way. So I think we've got to be at the forefront in terms of making digital accessible. We have a very clear strategy though, which is we are what we call digital first at Watford. So it's not digital by default, which I think we have seen others in the sector, digital only tenancies. We're never going to go there. It's digital first. So we want it to be, when we think about new ways new functionality, new offers, we will make the best way of doing it digital, but we will provide all the channels necessary. That fits in very well with the green agenda as well, which again is going to become an important thing, both the houses we have today and the homes we're building in the future. So I think there's a lot around this, and there's a lot around how do we make this sector continue to be diverse, continue to be exciting for people to come into. And that's where the whole bit around, how we make it an attractive sector, how we really push it and get the best people coming into this sector as well. When I came in 4 years ago from the private sector, it wasn't a completely strange move, but it wasn't entirely common at the same time. Whereas I think we are really focusing on, you don't need 20 years housing experience. We're looking for bright, ambitious people to come in and work in this sector, and then bring experience and skills in as well. So I think there's a lot of really exciting things coming up for the housing sector.
Paul, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to meeting up when it's possible.
Absolutely. Well, great to catch up as well. It's been much appreciated.